It's 107.7 The Bone, Baby Huey here, and joining me right now is someone that doesn't need no introduction. He's a legend in the world of pro wrestling. But for most of the boneheads here in the Bay Area, you guys all know him as my celebrity best friend. It's the one and only Chris Jericho. What's going on, man?
Am I the biggest celebrity that you have in your phone?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's a big honor.
Yes, it is.
Because you know everybody, Baby Huey.
I've tried, man. That's the thing. I always I take time to step back and just rethink my radio career.
Right.
In the last 18 years, just all the things I've been able to accomplish. But yeah, hanging out with you, getting to know you, that's probably is up there.
We're friends now.
I appreciate it. Thank you for saying that.
It's cool when people you admire become your friends.
Exactly.
I was saying yesterday I was at the Cow Palace and I was talking to Lars. I always said Lars from Metallica as if there's any other. Well, it could be Lars from Rancid. Who's another great guy.
Yep.
But talking about the Cow Palace with Lars, who he played there in 86, and I was the first time I was here in 98. And as I'm texting with Lars, I get another text from Paul Stanley, and I showed my friend Luther. I was like, look at this shit, man. Yeah. Can you imagine 20 years ago when we were skids living in Calgary, Okotoks, Canada?
Yeah.
To say, oh yeah, one day I'm going to get a text from Lars and Paul at the same time.
Yes. No, it's amazing. And going off the other Lars from Rancid, so Lars, he is a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
So there's plenty of times over the last couple of years, I'll go to a local indie show and Lars is there. We'll sit together and we're just geeking out, talking wrestling. And who would have known me when I was 10 years old getting into Rancid back in the 90s that we become buddies, and every time we're at a wrestling show, we sit together and we just talk. And he's like,
the first time I ever met Lars Fredrickson was in Chicago. He was there. He came up to me. Mm-hmm. I knew he's got tattoos on his face. He's an intimidating guy. And I respect Rancid, but I'm not a fan. I don't know the tunes.
Okay.
But I know, obviously, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And he came up to me and gave me, this was back in DVDs, probably about 10 years ago.
Okay.
He gave me a 20 DVD set of every Chris Jericho match that was available, like Mexico and Japan and ECW and Smoky Mountain. It's just I just wanted to give you this. I'm like, dude, that's really cool. Just the fact he gave me, I'm not even kidding, 20 DVDs full of, and then a big list, almost like a pamphlet of all the matches. And it's that's pretty cool, man. What a cool gesture, right?
That's awesome because
he's a legend.
He is a big collector.
He's a legend, man.
If you follow him on Instagram, he has a secondary Instagram account where it's just all his collectibles. And he's always either buying or selling stuff. So it's amazing. You look at his other Instagram, he has all this rare stuff. And I'm like, this is awesome.
But that's the thing though, when you have been doing this for a long time like I have, there's a lot of people who follow your work and you never know who's watching.
Okay.
That's how I became friends with Paul Stanley, is that his son was a wrestling fan.
Nice.
And the funny thing is, I always had this kind of fantasy, because I'm a huge Kiss fan, but a huge Paul Stanley fan, one of my all-time heroes in life and inspirations and everything. And I always had this dream, Paul probably doesn't like wrestling, but what if his kids did?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it came true. So I gave Paul's son, Colin is his name, my ring outfit from WrestleMania 20. The whole thing, tights, and it was Jericho versus Christian at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll put something together for Colin for his birthday. And I sent it to him. And they put it in a shadow box, and it was up in Colin's room for years. And I'm like, this is pretty effing cool. Paul Stanley's kid has my ring outfit on his wall. The same way that when I was a kid, I had Paul Stanley pictures. I never had a stage outfit, but it's just cool. When the cycle of life happens, and you get all these really cool people that you were fans of, that are also fans of your work. That's the ultimate honor.
No, it's true. And in all seriousness, I can't thank you enough how cool you've been with me over the years. I mean, we've done a ton of interviews together.
But you're respectful. You're a huge fan, and you're also very successful on your own too, man.
Thank you.
You help me when we come to town with Fozzy or AEW. I know it can always go on the bone. We set this up very quickly. I was like, I got to do Baby Huey's show, and we made it happen. I don't get up at 8:30 for anybody, man.
Thank you.
But I'll get up at 8:30 for you.
Thank you. I truly do appreciate
you son
that.
of a bitch.
Thank you.
Can't you have an afternoon show, please?
I know. I'm sorry. I'll work.
Can you do the night shift for once?
I know. I'll work on it. But no, but it's true. Coming full circle, for me, my favorite band's Green Day, and just over time getting to meet them, they do secret shows here in San Francisco.
Aren't they Bay Area guys?
Yeah. Oakland. And so I'll go to their shows, and I've got got to know the family, and they'll invite me.
That's cool.
And like one time, Mike Dirnt was walking through, and he just gave me a big hug, and I'm like, "What the f?" Like if I was 10 years old, listening to Dookie, that. Like jump ahead 25 years later, that they would be cool with me like that. I'm like,
it's the ultimate honor and the ultimate sign of true success.
Yes,
it really is.
Even Mike, one time, so he started following me on Instagram, and he joked with me. He's like, I follow you on Instagram, and I played it cool. I was like, oh yeah, I noticed that. But of course, when he started following me, I geeked out hella hard.
No, but that's how you know that like my kids. I'm just dad to them, which I should be.
Yeah.
The sign that I was cool to them is that Snoop Dogg follows me on Instagram.
Okay, there you go.
Dad, Snoop Dogg Snoop's my friend. Like, I've known Snoop for years. Not like we talk on the phone, but whenever I see him, he's always like big hug. Yeah. He's the first guy that ever called me baby boy. And I remember I had to ask somebody, is that an insult? Is that good or bad? He said, no, that's good. Like on the streets, baby boy is a cool thing. I'm like, okay. Because where I come from, you call someone baby boy, I might want to punch you in your face.
Exactly. I was going to say, yeah. But no, it's just true. Like, and Mike joked with me. He's like, I'll follow you, man. I'm going to keep track of what you do. And I'm like, okay, thanks. And then I went to their rehearsal space before and hung out. And like Revolution Radio, Mike played the album for me before it was released to the world. So I'm like, I'm still in awe. Like I'm sitting in their studio listening to the album for the rest of the world. Like I'm goosebumps. So I mean,
the ultimate honor, man.
All the hard work and stuff. But like I said, for you, man, you're still kicking ass, doing such great things with AEW. Last night, got to attend my first AEW show.
First time.
That's my first time.
This is our first time here in the Bay Area.
Yeah. I mean, I was this close to going to LA. Was it last year when you guys had your first in LA
June,
show? Yeah. Even was it last May? I was tempted to go to Vegas for Double or Nothing, but Metallica was playing the same weekend at Bottle Rock here in the Bay Area. So it was like we had the all hands on deck for Metallica.
Of course.
So we were all
But you got to go last night.
Yes.
And it was a great show.
Incredible. I mean, just the Bay Area crowd came out full force. It was a lot. The Cow Palace obviously it's funny. It's an older place.
Yeah. It's a historical place.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody even goes there anymore, but I think because I think Tony, my boss, is a big historian, so to do the Cow Palace show meant a lot. And we're excited that we have another one tomorrow, and I'm doing the Chase Center on Sunday. So we're kind of getting the full meal deal with San Francisco arenas.
Yeah, so Friday night for Rampage, which is 10 o'clock on TNT.
7 o'clock here, right?
Yeah, so we'll be here. Yeah, East Coast time for us. Yeah. So you're going to be doing commentary that night. How's that been for you? Well, one, doing commentary, or you're going to be doing commentary at the Cow Palace, but in general, you've been doing commentary now for a while. It must be
so what happened was
move.
Right before the lockdown. Yeah. I believe it was March of 2020.
Yeah.
We were told that everything was going to be locked down April, the whole month.
Yep.
Atlanta was shut down and Jacksonville, everything was shut down. So Tony Khan, my boss, we had to go to Atlanta to QT Marshall's wrestling school, which we had to quickly make into a television studio and film 30 matches. Now, Wednesday night is when we found out that everything's shutting down Thursday night at midnight. So in the course of this 2-hour period, Tony wrote 30 matches, and I was originally supposed to be off that week.
Okay.
If you remember, I did a vignette in my house with my dogs and Vanguard 1. So that was happening, lockdown or not. That was my role for the week. And then the next week, I was going to do commentary for whatever we had going on. And I said, well, since I'm supposed to do commentary for that week, why don't I come to Atlanta and just do commentary for the whole show? And so Tony Schiavone and I did commentary for 30 matches.
Yeah.
It was really hard. B, we had no choice. C, we only had 30% of the roster because we weren't even allowed to travel at that time. Airports were shut down. So only guys that lived in Atlanta and can drive from Orlando.
Yes.
And I did the commentary, and as a result, Tony Khan liked it. And when Rampage started, he said, I want you to do commentary on Rampage. And that's the reason why, because for those 30 matches, by necessity, I do the commentary.
I love your commentary because one, you're always throwing like fun pop culture, music references. And so me here working at a rock station, I love all your references. I get a geek out. I was like, oh, I know what he's referring to. So is that something you just make it a point just to kind of mix it up? Because
when I started doing it, my role models in commentary is Jesse Ventura and Bobby Heenan. I always thought they were the greatest. And the pop culture thing is almost like I treat it like an episode of like The Family Guy. If you get it, you get it. Yes. And it's great. If you don't, we just move on to the next thing and no one knows the difference. So when I throw out like a Rush lyric or a Loverboy lyric or a Metallica reference or a hockey, whatever it is, like this is a great example. A couple weeks ago, Danhausen was playing a ukulele and I think Jeff Jarrett broke it. And I said, George Harrison would not be happy. Now, if you get that, George Harrison's favorite instrument was the ukulele. Maybe 10% of the fan base got it, but the ones that did were like, that is the greatest reference I've ever heard in my life in wrestling.
It was.
You know, so I like to do that just to pop myself. And if you get it, you get it.
Well, and listen, we know you've been in the wrestling game for a long time now, but transitioning to commentary did... like, I don't know, JR, Shivani, did any of those guys help you, or do you ask for advice, or you just, you're kind of set in your style?
I had done commentary quite a few times over the years. So I think working with Tony in those 30 matches, we had chemistry, and that's all you need. And so when Tony put me on Rampage, it's a 4-man booth, which is hard, but we're all pros. You have to understand when to just lay out. And obviously when Jim Ross got put onto Rampage, he's Jim Ross. So we have a great connection. Jim brought me into WWF in 1999. He's still kind of like, he's like the proud father that I brought you in. So we have great respect for each other. And I know when I never insult Jim Ross. I insult Shivani all the time. But Jim Ross is legend. So you just got to know when to talk and when to lay out.
Absolutely.
And there's a real art form to that. It's not easy to be a radio host. It's not easy to be a podcast host. It's not easy to be the host of an award show. And it's not easy to be a commentator. Everyone thinks it is, but it is not.
Thank you for saying you would not believe, I'm not throwing shade at anyone in particular, but how many listeners we meet that come up and say, oh, I can do what you do. And it's kind of insulting. Hard, it's like, no.
It's insulting. And so if you talk about podcasting, for example, I started Talk is Jericho in 2013. Now, 10 years later, 2023, there is literally, this is not exaggeration, literally over 1 million podcasts. How many of those 1 million podcasts last for more than 2-3 months?
Exactly.
It's hard.
It is.
We talked earlier, when you have a guest on that doesn't want to talk, you can't stop. You got to fill the time. It is not easy to do. And when you get a talent for that, it is a rare thing. So anybody that's listening, it is not easy to do what Baby Huey does or what Lamont Hollywood does for 30 years or what Chris Jericho does. So when you find somebody that's great at it, enjoy it because it is a hard art form to really master.
It really is. And so, no, I appreciate you taking the time and doing all this. But so let's look ahead. AEW, like you said, making their San Francisco debut. Dynamite was awesome. Rampage this Friday at the Cow Palace. Revolution at the Chase Center this Sunday. Get your tickets over at Ticketmaster, also AEWTix.com. So last night on the Go Home episode of Dynamite, we saw you take out your opponent, Ricky Starks, for Revolution, you and Hager and the rest of the Jericho Appreciation Society. So what's kind of your head at right now going into your match with Ricky Starks? I mean, he is a big fan favorite. And so, how are you feeling about this match?
So my number one mission from day one when we started AEW was to do my best to make new stars because at first I think the company was on my back and I knew you've only got about a month or two. It can't always be Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
We need to make his... And think about this. Cody Rhodes, right out of the gate, he was not the Cody he is now.
Yeah.
Mox was still Dean Ambrose.
Yes.
Nobody knew Kenny Omega. Nobody knew the Bucks. Darby Allin, Scorpio Sky, Jungle Boy, Ortiz, Santana, Sammy Guevara, Jake Hager when he came back. All those guys in the first 3 months I worked with.
Yep.
We had a short window of time to make as many stars as we could.
Yeah.
So that's always been my goal. And Ricky Starks is another guy. People love him. All he needed was a story. He needed to be on TV featured every week, and that's kind of what we've done. And same thing, like you mentioned last night. Okay, Ricky comes down. Jake and Danny Garcia, another guy that's now becoming a star. It's all about making as many guys as you can main event level talent, right?
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do. The guy's got to do most of the work. I can help, though. And that's kind of what I've been doing. And all of my stories have been revolving. MJF, I worked with MJF for a year. MJF was not the MJF he is now.
Exactly.
Working with me for a year helped him become the MJF to get to the next level, right?
Yep.
So all of that is done by design, in my head. And so Ricky Starks, obviously people like him. He's got charisma. He can wrestle. He's got a great look. He just needs to be featured. And that's what we've done for the last couple months. And it's going to culminate at Revolution.
Which I'm glad you brought that up about working with the newer upcoming stars. Two-part with that. One, going back when you won the title back in 2019 and the pressure of help saying AEW in Stone, getting him off the ground. That's the thing. I remember like back then, a lot of people were like, oh, Kenny should have been the first champion. And I was like, are you guys crazy? You're not looking at the big picture. Chris has the big social media following, the name. It's like you're helping it.
Just the name value. I think Chris Jericho's the first champion gets eyeballs on the product.
Exactly.
There's a certain segment of the wrestling fan base that hates me just because I exist. I could retire tomorrow and suddenly I'll be an all-time legend. But because I still exist, people are angry at that. But if you really look at what I do, it's all beneficial to the company because you cannot teach experience. You cannot teach, I guess you would call it Q rating, which is fan recognition. When you're in wrestling, like I've been doing this more than anybody else at a high level, so you know who Chris Jericho is. It helps AEW. And that's fine. I have the thickest of skins. I know people hate me just because I got yelled at last night for beating a young talent like Peter Avalon. How did I bury the young talent of Peter Avalon? What happened in that match? Watch the match, 2 minutes long. Peter beat the crap out of me for 1 minute and 59 seconds, and I hit one move. One move. But I buried. No. That's not a burial. That is a putting over a guy like Peter Avalon who hasn't been on the show for years.
He was on Dynamite.
He was on Dynamite. He took Chris Jericho to task. Then he gets beat. Then he gets beaten down. Then out comes Ricky Starks, who then vanquishes the evil heel until we cheat to beat him up too. That's called storytelling, people.
Thank you.
Nobody's buried. Everybody gets something out of it.
So as far as
I've never buried anybody in my career ever. It's always about putting. Now sometimes I win. That's okay. I'm allowed to win, guys. It's okay.
Well, so a second ago you did reference, working with the younger talent, helping make new stars. Is that part of your mindset? Because maybe kind of what you went through in WCW, as far as, a lot of the veterans there were just kind of so concerned keeping them at the top.
I mean, obviously that was part of it, but it's not like I have a vendetta because I loved working in WCW. I learned a lot in WCW. I really did. And it's all part of your journey. But when you get to my stage of my career, we have to make new stars. But making new stars and putting people over is not wins and losses. You can lose to somebody and bury them at the same time. It happened to me in WCW a lot of different times. You might get the win, but you get a 1, 2, 3, and then get the shit kicked out of you afterwards. What does that do? Putting over young guys and building young talent is about storytelling. Win, lose, or draw, that doesn't matter. Being on TV every week, getting the rub is what we say, but being in a featured position where people see you over and over and over again. Like we're talking about Danny Garcia, right? Like he's on TV every week. Sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses, sometimes he does a promo, sometimes he stands beside me. Doesn't matter. Every week you're seeing Daniel Garcia. So suddenly 6 months down the line, when we put Danny in a main event on Rampage or Dynamite, well, of course he's in the main event. Should be.
They had the program with Bryan Danielson, everything.
Example.
Which is great because I used to see Garcia years ago at the Young Lions Cup tournament here.
There you go.
And to see him now in a few years, it's truly incredible.
I mean, last week on Rampage, the main event was Sammy Guevara versus Action Andretti. A year ago, neither of those guys could be in a main event. And now here they are main eventing a network television show. Action Andretti. No one even heard of the guy 3 months ago.
And that's
we're building guys, right?
Yeah, and you brought, and that's the thing is, he had a big win over you not too long ago, and then it was kind of reported afterwards that you handpicked him. So what did you see in him?
I was just, we were in Washington, and he was doing a dark match. We have a show called Dark against QT Marshall, and he did a great job in the match as a wrestler. And I thought, well, he's a really good worker. We've got a lot of good workers, though. Let me see him do a promo. So I had Sanjay Dutt, who's one of our backstage guys. I said, take him to the back and do some promos. And I kind of hid around the corner and listened to them, and they were really good. And then I revealed myself and said, hey, that was good. Now do a promo on Sammy Guevara with me standing there and with no hesitation. Like, I'm not The Undertaker, but I'm putting myself in his position. If The Undertaker, when I was 22 years old, came and said, hey, now I would go, can you get me, like, he, with no hesitation, did a really good off-the-cuff promo on Sammy. I went right back to Tony Khan. I said, we can do something with this guy, but I have an idea. Okay. Let's sign him, but let me tell you when we should, let me phrase that. Let's sign him, but don't put him on TV. Don't put him on Dark. Don't do anything with him until the time is right. Okay. Tony's like, cool. So this poor kid gets signed, and for 3 months he's at home, and he's like, hey, dude, like, I'm signed, but I said, just be cool. Just be cool. Trust me. And a week before, I think it was Dallas. Yeah. Dallas. I was like, okay, we'll see you this week. And when he showed up, and then he came in, I said, I want to talk to you. Came into my dressing room, and I said, I'm working with you tonight. He's like, oh my gosh, this is great. And you're going over. And this kid, you could just see, like, he was cool, but you could see in his face, he's like, are you fucking kidding me? Here's the story. Okay. We're going to treat this like a squash match. I'm just going to beat you up. And it's going to be like a squash match that you saw 1,000 times before until I hit you with a code breaker, and then you're going to kick out. And that's when the fun is going to start. And that's what happened. Yeah. And it was a great moment. It's the biggest upset in pro wrestling history, one of the greatest moments in Dynamite history. But then how do you follow up? I had an idea. Okay. I'll start with Starks, but Andrade will still be involved. And we'll have him involved with, Sammy and Danny. And now he's a guy. He's a guy on the show. Mm-hmm. And after Revolution, our story's probably going to be done for now, Action Andretti and Jericho. Okay. By the way, I never got the win back. I don't need to. I never need to beat Action Andretti ever, nor will I ever. I will never beat Action Andretti. I'm telling you that right now. Okay. And now he has to go on his own. Yeah. But we had a great 3-month story. It's a great start for this kid. Now the dust is going to settle. Where is he going to end up? That's kind of up to him. Yeah. But last night, Tony Khan put him in the ladder match. Had nothing to do with me. And I was like, that's really cool. Now Tony's thinking of him as a guy on our show. Because getting time on Dynamite is not easy. Exactly. It's a 2-hour show, and our roster is packed. So to get on that show is a big deal, and to get on that show on his own merit is a big deal. And I was almost like a proud father, like, good for you, kid. Now you're on your own. That's very cool. Go fly away, little birdie, and become an eagle. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. A couple more things I'm gonna ask you real quick. So right before the whole Action stuff, right before that, you had your title reign as Ring of Honor champion. Yes. So how was that experience for you? Like, when Tony, I'm sure, approached you about, doing Ring of Honor stuff, it seems like it was a really fun opportunity, being Claudio, and then you guys going back and forth, and then ultimately, giving the title, Claudio winning him back. So, but what was that experience like, representing Ring of Honor for a few months? It was a great idea from Tony Khan. And when he talked about doing the championship thing, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, okay, the Ring of Honor thing. Let's because my point was, at the time we were using Ring of Honor guys on Dynamite, and no one really knew what it was, right? No one knew what the point was or what Ring of Honor even was. So, okay, let me be the champion, and I will now desecrate the legacy of Ring of Honor, which is all about honor and sportsmanship. So let me give this belt a reason to be on the show. Yeah. And at the time as well, there was a little bit of an influx in AEW where Moxley and I basically had to take control of the show to keep the train on the tracks. Mox did a great job. And I think at the time, me being the Ring of Honor champion, now every week, like, I think I worked 8 weeks in a row. Yeah. I've never worked that much recently, but they're all like, cool, great banger matches against a variety of opponents. Bandito and Colt Cabana and Dalton Castle and Ishii and like Danielson and Mox, and it's just like one after another. And I think it really helped AEW get out of this kind of weird situation we were in and grow. And then when the time came to lose to Claudio, I think that really helped the Ring of Honor title to where Tony took it on its own and now is doing his own thing with the Honor Club. And I think it was a really important moment for AEW, for Ring of Honor, and for Chris Jericho. 2022 was a career year for me at 51 years old. I mean, if you're talking, Observer Awards, I finished number 3 behind Roman Reigns and Moxley. Moxley and Roman Reigns as like the MVP in the United States. Now, this is a fan-voted award, so other people felt the same. Like, this was a great year for me. I'll probably never have another year like it again. I mean, dude, I'm 32 years on the job, but I'll take it because when we needed it, I had some great ideas, I had some great opponents and some great matches, and really helped the Ring of Honor title stand on its own as a legit world championship.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, you did touch on, kind of that awkward phase post All Out.
Right, big fight at All Out.
Yeah.
It sucked. It was terrible.
So let me ask you this. I know you re-signed, Moxley re-signed.
Yeah.
There's reports that you guys kind of become more of like the locker room leaders.
Yeah.
How's the vibe in the locker room right
great.
now? I think a lot of people are nosy or curious about.
No, but wrestling is wrestling, right? There's always going to be pros and cons all the time. What I can do now after 32 years on the job is I have the respect of the locker room because I give respect to everybody. Everybody that puts on a pair of boots, I respect.
Cool.
I don't care if it's your first match or your 1,000th match. I appreciate you. And I understand there's different personalities, man. This is wrestling. We're all gypsies, tramps, and thieves. But guess what? I speak gypsies, tramps, and thieves. I also speak billionaire. I worked for Vince McMahon for 20 years. I worked for Tony Khan for 4 years. I know how to talk to my boss. And I know how to get the frustrations of the locker room across the boss and how to get the frustrations of the boss to the locker room. So I enjoy that role.
Being the middle person.
Yeah, and also like sometimes people need to hear, hey, dude, shut up and do it.
Yeah?
Do it.
Okay.
There's terms and advice and words that I've learned, like we work for somebody. If you work at any job ever in the world today, sometimes you're going to have to do stuff that you don't want to do. Take out the trash.
Exactly.
I don't want to do it. Tough luck.
Yeah, we've all been there. Yeah.
The wife wants you to do it. Your dad wants you to take out the fucking trash.
Yeah. It must be frustrating, though. And this is my own observation as a fan of AEW. It must be frustrating where I feel like at times the back locker room gossip or what the dirt sheets report become more newsworthy, or people focus on that instead of the actual in-ring stuff.
But the thing is, too, though, Baby Huey, it's the way of the world, right? So social media is, you got to adapt. It's the way it is.
Okay.
But you also have to understand, I think social media is more prominent now than it was 5 years ago, but still, what percentage of our fan base is social media motivated? And I'll give you an example. I have 4.5 million followers on Instagram. If I post a picture of me and Baby Huey and I get 10,000 likes, that's a lot of likes. Think about that. 10,000 out of 4.5 million. How many people are really reading my Instagram page? What is that, 0.00001%? So if you're going to go on social media, it's great. If people say you're the god of life, take it with a grain of salt. If people say you're the worst to ever do it, take it with a grain of salt. I read social media and I get that. Chris Jericho's the greatest. Chris Jericho needs to go away. And there's half and half. Yeah. So what do? Revel in my greatness or cry because people want me? No, you take it with a grain of salt. So social media is not as important, but people take it as important. So you gotta just go with it.
All right, I'm gonna remember that dealing with haters and listeners.
People it's easy to post stuff.
Yeah,
and I look at people that write really mean things about me, and then I'll go on their page and they got like 67 followers. Like, what are you gonna do? Am I going to bury this guy
it's not worth
for
it.
My 4.5 million?
They're clout chasing.
It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Gotcha.
It's the way of the world, and so there are people that complain about everything. There's AEW haters and there's AEW lovers and everyone in between.
Yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt. All that matters is putting on a great show every week to appeal to the million people that watch our show and to try and attract new viewers. Like I've learned with Fozzy, for example, people that hate my band, I can't try to convince them. It's like if you're a Buddhist and you want to try and convince someone that Buddha is God, either you're in or you're out.
Yeah.
I don't think Buddha's God. You will never convince me that Buddha is God. But if you're a Buddhist, I can't convince you that he's not.
Gotcha.
So for Fozzy fans, I can't appeal to the people that hate my band. All I can do is make our fans happy and attract new fans. Same with AEW, same with Talk is Jericho, same with anything that Chris Jericho does. If you hate Chris Jericho, I can't change your mind. And that's okay. You're allowed to hate me, but I'm not going to worry about you. Wow. I've got no problems with you guys. I will appeal to the Chris Jericho fans and to try and make new Chris Jericho fans. That's my goal.
Damn. I'm ready to run through a wall for you right now. Like, dude, motivational speaker. Now, I remember that for applying to work. But listen, Chris, I know you got a busy day. You got to get ready for Rampage this week. You got Revolution this Sunday.
Phil Demel's karaoke tonight.
Yes, which I cannot wait for. Phil keeps asking me to come out, and I'm like, okay, this is the perfect time. The stars are aligning.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, come out to the Back Lounge in Dublin, our favorite bar in the East Bay. Chris, listen, thank you so much for making the time today. I mean, as you can tell, I can go on for hours with you talking wrestling, but I know it's a busy.
Hey, dude, anytime. You're a great supporter of AEW, of Fozzy, of Chris Jericho. So whenever I'm in town, I'll always come see you guys. I appreciate it.
So yeah, encourage everyone, get your tickets ASAP for AEW Rampage this Friday at the Cow Palace, AEW Revolution at the Chase Center this Sunday, AEWTix.com. I'll have everything linked out at 1077thebone.com. I cannot wait.
And if you see Baby Huey there, he'll take a picture with you.
Absolutely. Oh, dude, last night, I not the humble brag, but I felt like a rock star last night walking around. There was a lot of boneheads out there and just people, listening. And it was
people
such a great
still think
feeling.
you're underage. You look like you're 18 years old.
I know.
Man.
Thank you, man.
I was going to buy you a beer, but I want to see your ID first.
I got carded last week. I swear to God. I still
Doesn't surprise me, man.
Which I tell them, I laugh. It's like, yeah, you look at my ID, it says 83. It's like, but no, it's fine. I think it's a compliment. I love it. I still get carded, all that stuff. But yeah, everyone also check out Fozzy. Boombox is out now. Love the record. Follow Chris on social media as well. Chris, thank you again. And yeah, looking forward to the rest of the weekend with AEW.
You got it, man. Good talking to you, dude.
All right. Bye-bye.